It's August 18, 1945. World War II is winding down. Amidst all the world mayhem, it is reported that Subhash Chandra Bose, the dashing Indian National Army figurehead, perished in an air crash in Taiwan, Taiwan. The news of the report sends shockwaves across India and the world. But once the initial shock gels, questions begin arising. Was this the end of Netaji or just the beginning of an even larger mystery? The official account was straightforward. Bose had boarded a Japanese warplane from Saigon in order to proceed to Manchuria. The plane crashed immediately after taking off from Taihoku, and Bose perished due to severe burns. This was testified to by Japanese medics and officials who claimed to have treated him. But skepticism followed immediately. There was an inquiry in 1946 by the British intelligence officer Colonel John Figgis, who felt that Bose had indeed died from injuries he had suffered in the plane crash. But the absence of concrete proof such as a body or photographs left scope for suspicion. In 1956, the Indian government established the Shah Nawaz Committee to investigate further. The committee, after questioning various witnesses, had substantiated the theory of the plane crash. Bose's family, however, including his brother Subhash Chandra Bose, rejected the findings and claimed cover-up and concealment of key information. The mystery was deepened in the 1970s with the setting up of the Khosla Commission. The commission, led by Justice G.D. Khosla, reiterated the earlier findings but also embraced the persistent rumors and other speculations regarding Bose's death. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect to this mystery is a figure known as Gumnami Baba, an ascetic who lived in Uttar Pradesh and bore a likeness to Bose. It is believed by some that Bose escaped death in the plane crash and lived undercover as Gumnami Baba. Examinations, including DNA analysis, have yet to establish the two men with certainty. Adding to the enigma is the fact that in 1999 a Mukherjee Commission was established to consider the issue in detail, and in 2005 arrived at the conclusion that Bose had not died in the plane crash. The commission argued that the crash was a decoy to facilitate Bose's flight to the Soviet Union. In spite of these questions, the Indian government downgraded the work of the Mukherjee Commission and kept up with the conviction that Bose perished in the 1945 crash. The truth behind Subhash Chandra Bose's disappearance still slips away from us. Was it an accident, an escape operation, or something else? As we explore deeper into the enigma, we come across layers of intrigue, contradictory accounts, and a nation's perpetual quest for information. As the mystery grew, public interest in Netaji's vanishing took on a life of its own. Nobody was shy. Rumors traveled faster than facts. Some claimed Bose became a monk, others that he escaped to the Soviet Union, others whispered that he returned to India undercover. But these were not flight fantasies. They were driven by patterns, purposive gaps in records, missing files, and intriguing government actions which appeared to conceal rather than reveal the truth. India had changed by the 1970s and 80s. The fight for independence had been replaced by the democratic scramble of modern politics. But the mystery of Bose's vanishing still lingered in the air. And then in Faizabad, Uttar Pradesh, there were whispers of Gumnami Baba, an old reclusive saint who lived behind the veil, hidden from the public eye, spoke fluent English and Bengali, and owned objects which ominously mirrored Bose's belongings. Typewriter spectacles, books bearing the inscription SC Bose INA medals as well. Was this Netaji living a double life? When Gumnami Baba died in 1985, a local journalist began snooping. What emerged was not curiosity, but a movement. Everyone was demanding DNA tests, handwriting analysis, voice samples, anything to prove or disprove Gumnami Baba was Netaji. The results were chilling. The writing was almost identical. He was extremely knowledgeable on INA operations no one outside could have been. He maintained contact with some past INA members under secret conditions. But science raised an impediment. An early 2000s DNA test against Bose family samples and Gumnami Baba's body produced inconclusive results, not enough material for a test to be done. The nation was again left chasing shadows. Let us take a step back and look at the global dimension, specifically the Soviet link. It was contended by certain scholars that Bose never died but escaped to the USSR to attain the support of Stalin in waging his fight against British imperialism. The theory was that the crash was fake with the help of the Japanese. And this wasn't totally improbable. Bose had already allied himself with the Axis powers once before forming the Indian National Army on the patronage of the Japanese. Bose was reputed to be anti any foe of Britain if it benefited India's freedom. Even CIA and KGB intelligence reports indicated Netaji could have traversed Soviet territory, but nothing was certain. Declassified documents revealed communication exchange between Indian and Soviet authorities regarding a famous Indian, but names were blacked out, dates were unclear, and in the absence of concrete evidence, the theory was speculation. More maddening to researchers, however, was the conduct of the Indian government. Governments of all persuasions for decades denied declassifying over 100 files on Bose. Why were they withheld from the public? What was so sensitive, so potentially explosive in those documents that they could not be published even after so many years of independence? In 2015, under growing public pressure and agitation from Netaji's descendants, the Modi government finally began declassifying some of these files. What came out only added more confusion, mentions of surveillance on Bose's family, evidence of political motivations to bury the story, and confirmation that not even prime ministers had complete access to all documents at times. One thing was becoming clear: this wasn't just about one man's mysterious disappearance. It was about a system unwilling to face its own secrets. Whether out of embarrassment, political calculations, or international diplomacy, Netaji's truth had been buried beneath decades of silence. What is interesting about the intrigue of Subhash Chandra Bose's disappearance is not the incident itself, but the intricate interweaving of politics, espionage, and national pride that come along with it. Unraveling the layers, we find that this story is not just one of a plane crash or an absent leader, but the manner in which history is created and sometimes intentionally remade. One of the longest-standing rumors is against the British espionage community. Bose was their greatest foe after all. He had spearheaded a challenge to British colonial rule with unprecedented fervor. His Indian National Army contested alongside the Japanese and posed a threat to British control over India in a very real way. Bose was a danger for the British not only as a revolutionary but also as a representative of resistance that had to be wiped out. Could the British have conspired to cover up? There are suggestions that British intelligence kept Bose's activities closely under surveillance during the war. Records suggest that they intercepted communications and attempted to sabotage his operations. For some historians, the plane crash explanation conveniently fitted the British government's interests because it provided a tidy conclusion: their arch-nemesis was dead and the uprising had been efficiently suppressed. But only half of the story is told by the British side. The Indian National Congress, which took power after independence, stood to gain from keeping Bose's complicated legacy alive. Nehru and Patel were part of its leaders and did not support Bose's tactic. His alliance with Axis powers was controversial and raised moral dilemmas for the new government trying to earn its place as a democratic nation aligned with the West. After independence, the Congress government could have found it politically expedient to take the official account of Bose's disappearance at heart and let the matter rest. Probing the mystery further could have opened up old wounds or embarrassed diplomatic relations. Bose's disappearance was therefore a blind spot in history, a chapter it was best to keep closed. Another dimension added to this multi-layered story is the public's appropriation of Bose's legacy. To Indians, Bose is a heroic, almost mythical figure, an icon of fiery nationalism and unbroken resistance. The mystery of his disappearance only added to his mystique. It is as if his vanishing act made him an ageless icon, bigger than life, forever young and unvanquished. This mythologizing pays off. It begets conspiracy theories, a few of which venture into the world of fantasy. Was Bose living in secret guise as Gumnami Baba? Did he break away to Russia or China? Was he assassinated by foreign agents? Each speculation, in the absence of hard evidence, is a reflection of the people's unwillingness to swallow a simple or unsatisfying account. In 2016, the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Death Reference Committee, which was set up by the government, examined new evidence but was still not able to conclude the mystery. The committee acknowledged the inconsistencies in papers on hand and proposed additional research, but concurred that decades of concealment had made it extremely difficult to get to the fact. To historians and researchers, the challenge is how to separate fact from fantasy in a story shrouded in decades of disinformation, lost documents, and politicking. The truth could be concealed in details still sealed in classified files, or lost to those who once belonged to the INA or Japanese army. More significantly, Bose's disappearance challenges us to consider the nature of history. How do nations recall their heroes? What becomes of facts when they conflict with popular imagination or political expediency? And why are some narratives left open, unsettling collective memory? As we arrive at the contemporary age, there is a need not only to ponder what happened to Subhash Chandra Bose, but also what his vanishing signifies for India and for history. Netaji's story is much bigger than a story of death or survival intrigue. It's a mirror that shows the complexities of colonial resistance, post-independence politics, and a need for human heroes. Bose's missing history left a vacuum no simple explanation could fill. Official accounts may proclaim it's over, but the queries it raises still haunt popular imagination. Why nobody? Why such conflicting tales? For how long did the government classify files? These unanswered questions are precisely that, a symptom of a larger issue: how history is most frequently written by power holders and not necessarily those who lived it. Over the last few years, new archival releases and digital technology have enabled historians to piece together some of the missing links. But each new evidence tends to raise more questions than solutions. The Bose controversy is a reminder that history is never fixed. It is an ongoing dialogue between the past and present, facts and mismemory and reality. Bose's life and premature death also serve to highlight the conundrums of freedom struggles that cut across lines of global warfare. Coalitions with Axis powers during World War II was a gamble, one that has served to complicate Bose's legacy. While some of the population remember him as a patriot who used all means available to free India, others view his alliances as dubious. This tension also makes it challenging for India to recall him, adding another layer of complexity to the mysteries of his disappearance. Beyond political intrigue, Bose's disappearance is about a common human story: the pursuit of closure, of truth, and of justice. His supporters waited patiently for news, his family mourned without proof, and generations of Indians argued vehemently his record. This common expectation of resolution makes history a living, breathing narrative, constantly evolving with new versions and interpretations. And thus, the vanishing of Subhash Chandra Bose is not a story of man or plane crash, it's one of a country seeking reconciliation with its past. It tests us to be intelligent people, to question official accounts, and to embrace the complexity of history instead of heading into instant conclusions. In the end, Bose's mystery remains unsolved. Perhaps it is what contributes to his enduring popularity. As with all such great mysteries, it tantalizes us to explore, question, and find out not only about the past but also about ourselves and the stories we choose to tell ourselves. As we close this chapter, one thing is for sure: Subhash Chandra Bose's spirit, his courage, his vision of India's freedom, and his refusal to let go remains an inspiration to millions. Whether he died in an accident, escaped in exile, or lived in secret as Gumnami Baba, his legacy lives on. And the search for truth, as with India itself, continues.